It's time now to take a look at what's making headlines here in France with Dipti Laurent. Hi, Dipti.
I will.
Beginning with L'Équipe and Neymar's arrival in Paris after some false starts.
That's right. We've been talking about this since yesterday. Well, let's look at the front page of the French sports paper L'Équipe, which says on its front page, Un roi à Paris, a king in Paris. The Brazilian forward Neymar will be officially welcomed into the PSG family today. Something has radically changed in world football with this transfer. That's what L'Équipe's editors say. And the paper has dedicated 18 pages of coverage just to Neymar, including a double spread of his fame, his stardom. You see him posing here with people like Serena Williams, Drake, David Beckham, and also Pelé.
Yeah, football great Pelé. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron wouldn't mind some of Neymar's popularity now. He's seeing a terrible slump in his approval ratings.
That's right. One of the worst slumps, in fact. That's what Libé says, which we'll get to in a second. Ultra-liberalism is going downhill. That's what the communist paper L'Humanité says on its front page, adding that part of the criticism against Macron is the less important role he's given to parliament in decision-making. The paper accuses Macron's parliamentary group of basically voting in the same way, quote, unilateral politics, voting in the interests of the rich. That's what L'Humanité says. Libé, the left-leaning paper, says there are big doubts around Macron. Between contradictions and shambles, the president is now facing the, quote, worst plummet in popularity in 20 years.
And a lot of debate on how they could be from the right, from the left, being centrist, and be a functioning government. Libé looking at specifically what has rubbed people the wrong way about Macron.
What's gone wrong, really? He injected so much of optimism into France when he was elected. What's gone wrong now? That's what Libé is looking at. It's been a turbulent summer for Emmanuel Macron and his government. And one of the things that's rubbed people up the wrong way is his way of doing things that certainly contributed to this slump in popularity. Libé talks about things like his authoritarian decision-making, the fact that there's less room for discussion now, and this discord between his words, his image, and his actions. Surely we can't expect an overhaul in politics in one day, Libé says in its editorial, but the measures taken so far by Macron give a sense of social injustice that could come back like a boomerang to haunt him when parliamentarians gather later in September to debate the highly controversial labor reforms. Now, Libé is also looking at what some call the chaotic inner workings of Macron's party. First of all, their political and parliamentary inexperience. It's really been much derided by the opposition, and this disconnect between the outside image of a party that's a tight-run ship and the reality that it's chaotic, with frustrations and fractures beginning to show.
And in addition to Emmanuel Macron, some attention being given to his Prime Minister Édouard Philippe.
That's right. His right-hand man, Édouard Philippe, also facing some criticism. He's given an interview to Le Parisien newspaper today, talking about what the paper calls Édouard Philippe's promises. He's talking about his projects in the coming months, things like say how he's going to save the state money, but also how he plans to reform labor laws. Philippe says so far he's satisfied with all that he's done, all that he's achieved, but Le Parisien wonders if this optimism is enough to ride the looming storm that's awaiting the party. Philippe needs to, quote, rise to the occasion and mobilize his ministers. And indeed, on this topic, there's a lot of criticism that Édouard Philippe is not present enough, or rather that Emmanuel Macron is perhaps too omnipresent. Within his party, Philippe is accused of being too discreet and of not protecting Emmanuel Macron enough from the criticism. I quote Le Parisien's editors who say, for a president, a good prime minister is not just a sparring partner, but he must also sometimes be the punching bag for France. Obvious boxing reference there in reference to Philippe's favorite pastime.
All right, now let's turn our attention to something completely different now. And Europol, the European Police Office, are turning to some unusual methods to track down some criminals.
This is a great story. Well, you can read more about it in Le Parisien newspaper. Europol officers have been posting on the internet summer postcards addressed to wanted criminals. In one such postcard that you see here in this image, the police has written to a criminal called Farouk, who's believed to be the ringleader of a French gang of armed robbers. Dear Farouk, the police write, you must know that life is sweet. Life is best in sweet France. We hope you'll come back to us soon. "We miss you, the police." Now, it's not the first time that Europol have been inventive like this in trying to find criminals. Last year, they released on the internet, just before Christmas, an advent calendar of wanted criminals. And it seems to be paying off because since 2016, they've tracked down 36 wanted criminals.
I'm guessing they have a long list of who's been naughty more than they do of who's been nice. Did Pique Laurent with a roundup of what's in the French papers. That's it for now. Please stick around. More news coming up in a moment.